Hi everyone, we're here in Oxford, England with Jane Shaw, our former dean, who is now, are you the president or the
Principal.
The principal
Of
Harris Manchester
College.
College
Yep.
in Oxford. It's such a prestigious position. You can see the grounds are absolutely beautiful, and it gives Jane a chance to work a lot with young people, and that was part of what I wanted to ask you
Okay.
about today. It's just,
All right.
just what are younger people thinking about these days, and,
Well-
what's their spiritual life like, and how are they different than they were maybe 30 years ago?
So it's very interesting you should ask me this, Malcolm, because four of us have just written a book
Yes,
about
exactly.
Generation Z or Gen Z.
Yep.
Gen Z, comma explained. I can do a little
Yes,
plug for it.
synopsis.
And it started when we were at Stanford, and we started to think about how this generation, in fact, is different.
Yeah.
I think they care passionately about each other and other people, which is really lovely. They care passionately about the environment.
Yeah.
They are very collaborative, and we try to honour that by writing, the four of us writing the book collaboratively. So it's a book by four people in one voice, which
Oh,
was
I love
interesting.
that. That's great.
And they care about their own mental health and well-being. And so, you know, a lot of people are cynical about Generation Z or Gen Z, and we were pretty positive. We think we have things to learn from them, which is how to be collaborative, how to care about each other and ourselves and so on in a way that they are very good at. On the other hand, we also think generations have got to work together, and so, you know, we hope that they will learn something about probably our respect for institutions
Yeah.
that we older people have.
And for experience it in a way.
Yeah, experience. In terms of religion, I think it's not that they're against it, it's just it's not mostly on their radar screen.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, the Harvard Gazette published an article recently about just the health benefits of having a
Yeah.
spiritual life. And I just as you were saying this, I thought, oh, that might be a conclusion that they
Yeah.
start to come to too
Yeah.
as they get older and start to experience different things.
So here in college, actually, we have a wellbeing research centre, which is fantastic, and it's run by one of our economists, a behavioural economist, and he's one of the people who writes the UN Happiness Report.
Oh, I love that. That's so interesting.
So they're doing a lot of research on education, the workplace, what would it mean to have a 4-day week, for example. So there's some really cutting edge research being done just at this college on the question of well-being. And the director, who is this economist, gets a lot of the students to work as RAs in there, which is great.
Yeah, that
and they
is.
bring their own experience to
Right,
it too.
completely.
Yeah.
What a great setting to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah,
ask that question.
Yeah.
You know, Ellen Clark King was one of the first people who ever talked to me about cathedrals as being centers of life in today's
Yes.
church. And she said that even though in many places in the Church of England you might see decline, that
Yeah.
the cathedrals are an exception to that. And
They are.
And I
Yes.
wonder if you can talk a little bit about why you think that is.
Yes, absolutely.
What makes cathedrals effective in
Yeah.
today's world?
Yeah. So I think they're effective because they are open to you know, the whole city, the whole county, the whole diocese, and that means that they can serve many, many people. And I tried to do that at Grace, and I know you tried to do that at
Yeah.
Grace. And also I think they can bring people in by other routes, as pilgrims or through arts programs, as at Grace, through school educational programs, and there's no pressure to belong. You can participate as much or as little as you like. When I was at Grace, we had Kelvin Holdsworth, who's the Dean of the Cathedral in Glasgow, come and preach and speak at the forum. And one of the things he said, which I've never forgotten, is in cathedrals there are big columns and pillars, P-I-L-L-A-R-S, to hide behind.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not going to get put on the coffee rota instantly. You can be as anonymous for as long as you like, and then you can kind of emerge, or as I say, you can come through a different route at Grace through yoga as well, for example. So there's that. I think that's one of the reasons that cathedrals are successful. They also play a part in civic life in this country in particular. And one of the things that I find worrying about the Church of England at the moment, I've written about this publicly, so I'm not telling any secrets, is that cathedrals are a model for church growth, but it's not a model that the leadership in the Church of England is taking notice of. The leadership of the Church of England is much more interested in discipleship, which is a more evangelical model. And through that, I think cathedrals and indeed parishes are getting a bit lost, which is a shame because there's a real possibility there.
You know, Martin Percy talked to me about that when we met. it's hard, I think, if you're from the United States to understand just the breadth of different perspectives that are in the Church
Absolutely,
of
yeah.
England.
It is, yeah. We do cover the whole church personship, as it were, from very low evangelical to very high Anglican, because we're the state church.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes it a dynamic place, and
Yeah.
it's fascinating to come and visit.
Oh, good. And you've been doing cathedral tours. I'm going to turn the interview around now.
definitely, that's perfect.
So,
exactly.
Malcolm, have you got a favourite cathedral, or
Oh, that's funny. I haven't thought of it in those
Yeah.
terms yet.
but you've
I
learned
feel like-
learned some great stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so Ely Cathedral focus. They film a lot of things there. So
Yes, they
we
do.
talked about like how they work out their media contracts, and
Interesting.
Westminster Abbey. I met with all the visitors, like the people
Yes.
who take your ticket at the cathedral,
Yes.
and they gave me instructions about if have a separate charge for the headphones. And so every
Wow.
single different place
Yes.
we've learned like very practical things like Westminster and very abstract things too.
And one of the things about English cathedrals that I think is different from American cathedrals is a lot of all that outward facing stuff is done by volunteers.
Yeah.
And I remember, this was quite a few years ago, but I think it was Durham Cathedral, forgive me if I've got that wrong, but they decided not to give the volunteers a free scone and cup of tea. Total uproar, because they had 80 volunteers,
Yeah.
and it's worth a free scone and a cup of tea
You must have
for the
felt-
kind of work they were doing.
You probably felt this way at Grace Cathedral. There's a special vocation, special
Yes.
lay ministry
Yes,
of being a person of hospitality.
absolutely.
And but Grace Cathedral would not function without all the volunteers that we have as greeters, ushers,
Yes.
docents, etc. But it's such a pleasure to see you
Oh,
and to see
great
you in
to
the
see you.
setting, and we miss you very much in California.
thank
You
you.
made a huge impact, and we talk about that pillar anecdote all the time because of you. It's like, and there are other things too that
Yeah.
you've passed on that are part of
Oh,
our
good.
DNA.
Great, well, it's brilliant to have you and Heidi here.
Yeah.
Fantastic, and come back soon. And I don't know when I'm going to get on a plane again, because
I know.
it's hard to travel these
It
days.
is, but when you do, we'll be delighted to see you. Come and
Thank
preach
you.
at Grace Cathedral
I'd
next
love
time
to.
you come.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thanks very much for watching.
Thank
My
you.
name is Malcolm Clemens Young. This is Principal,
Jane Shaw is good. Just Jane.
just Jane, Malcolm and Jane from Grace Cathedral. Thanks for watching. More good news.
Bye.